Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode here at WILDMAN Lifts. I'm your host, WILDMAN. Now, on today's episode, we're popping back into the gym where I was doing the continental clean and press with an axle. So if you don't know what the heck that is, instead of doing a standard Olympic clean where you take it from the ground and you basically pick it up and then buck it as hard as you can with your legs and then getting it to the front rack position with your shoulders and then pressing it overhead, I actually start with the midsection and then I clean it up to my shoulders, which I've done numerous times on my channel. The reason why I do that is for two reasons. Number one, it's a strongman movement, and I like doing strongman movements. This is a very popular exercise to do in strongman competitions, so that's why I like to train in such a manner. And they usually use axles, and that's the second reason why I train this way. Even if it's with a barbell, I usually do the continental clean and press style instead of an Olympic clean. And the reason is because it's the best way to lift heavy objects. Most objects you're not going to be able to grab and then just buck it as hard as you can and get it to your shoulders, right? Typically things are odd and heavy and awkward, and you have to have a stopping point somewhere on your body in order to readjust and then get it up to your shoulder. Same thing with the stone and everything else that you see me lift with. And if you try to Olympic clean with a axle bar, let's just say you can Olympic clean 315 pounds. You might only do 225 pounds and that axle will just fly out of your hand because you can't get your hands completely wrapped around it. So as I'm doing this workout in the gym, I also want to be able to point out why it's important to start small and not just jump into the gym and immediately start going into the heavier weights. Why it's important to warm up and why it's important to start with lesser weight and move your way up to your 1 rep max instead of just jumping in and getting started right away like a lot of people tend to do these days, mainly because they're lazy or because they're young and they get away with it in their early years. But it's a bad habit to have if you want to continue to lift for longevity. And you want to talk about one day when you're old, how much you used to lift and not what you can lift right now. So let's pop into today's workout and let's get started. So for today's strength giant set, like I said, I'm going to be doing the axle continental clean and press. And mainly I'm just going to get it up to my shoulders and press it overhead for 1 and then do a second rep. That's a common way to train the continental clean and press. And in between, I'm going to be doing some half turn get-ups. I love doing these because A, it works your shoulder mobility, and B, it works your obliques. But I guess if you want to throw in C, it also works that explosive movement as well from the ground and that stability, which is what I need when I'm pressing that heavy axle bar overhead. And I'm also going to be doing the assault bike, which I'm not going to show this entire video. I'm just going to show the continental clean and press and the half turn get-ups. But just know I'm also doing the assault bike along the way. And that's going to be the strength giant set for the day. Now there was a famous CrossFitter that used to tout that he had a 455-pound barbell already loaded in his gym. And every day he'd walk in, at early in the morning, 5 a.m., and he'd go and he would deadlift that thing, right? Just cold, no gear, no warm up, nothing. Didn't work up to a heavy set, starting with just 135 pounds, getting to 455. He'd just walk in and just pull it. And he claimed that that was how he kept strong all day because he was always ready to pull 455 pounds all day. And eventually it got to the point where he would up that weight as he continued on in his life. Now, spoiler alert, I don't want to throw any names out there because I actually like this person, but that person's permanently disabled now because that's a terrible idea. When you go into the gym, you should always have a good practice of warming your body up. This includes doing some very light stretching, warming up the joints, maybe doing some conditioning before you start, or doing some mobility drills. But once you're done with that, you don't just jump into your heavy sets for the day. You want to start off small to make sure that all the muscles you're going to use are waking up and that they're firing and they're ready to go. That way, when you get to your optimal heavy weight, number one, you'll have a more likability of hitting it. But number two, you won't get injured because your body has gradually handled that load over time. So it just makes more sense to do it that way. But I'm so surprised about how many people don't do that. They just get in the gym and they either try their 1 rep max or they're already starting off super heavy. I saw a guy in the gym one time who hopped right into a 225-pound bench press and just started going to town. And the max that he could lift, I think, was 245. My max bench ever is 365 pounds, and I start with just the bar. And then add weights gradually until I get to my top set. I would never do it like that because if you do it like that, you might be able to get away with it when you're younger. But one day you're not. And when something goes snap, it may be irreparable, and then you're unable to get back into it ever again. And then you'll just talk about that one time you were able to lift that weight. But nobody will believe you because it wasn't on film or anything like that. And even if it was, they'll be like, well, that was cool when you were younger. You can't do anything now. The idea of lifting for longevity includes making sure that you're doing everything correctly and that your form is correct. And you need to start with the lighter weights first as you move up. This is a really basic principle of weightlifting, but I'm really surprised how a lot of people don't follow it. This is why today you can see that I'm not wearing any gear. I'm not wearing any wrist straps. I'm not wearing a belt. I'm not wearing knee sleeves. This is just pretty much me on my lunch break working out. And surprise, I hit a PR today on the axle bar, and I did it without any gear. And that's because I've just been training without any gear and making sure that I've been doing it over time safely and smartly and warming up all the muscles. And that's made it all the difference. And training in giant sets also in between these lifts really helps get all my muscles firing and my mobility going so that I am able to be prepped for that big weight when it's time to get to that point within the workout. So after hitting that 250-pound axle for a PR, no equipment on, super happy about that. Wasn't expecting that. I knew how to dial it back on the variation giant set. So I was doing 3 rounds. I was doing the seated dumbbell press, starting with the 30s. And then I moved into the 50s. I was doing 10 reps each with these until I got to the 80s. And I was going to do a 10 rep max with that. So I was going to do my top set on this variation giant set. And it got a little sticky towards the end there, but that was perfect because my shoulders took a beating with that axial continental clean and press. So that ended up nicely. And I finished off my shoulders, and then I immediately switched out the get-ups with the 6-way windmills just to try something different. I wanted to work my obliques and work my shoulder mobility and my hip mobility a little bit different. And 6-way windmills is one of my favorite exercises to do in order to do that. But I still stuck with the assault bike as well, just to kind of finish off at a nice even number. And then for the accessory giant set, I was doing 3 rounds, and I was doing the overhead tricep extension with a really heavy kettlebell, just trying to make sure that I was finishing off those triceps since they took a really big beating during that shoulder pressing, and some face pulls just from overall shoulder mobility and for health. One of my favorite exercises to do to keep everything intact. And with flutter kicks, just to make sure I finished off my core, but also worked a little bit of those hip flexors. So that was the workout for the day. So there you have it. That's the content of clean and press, and that's another reason why you should always start small. Really appreciate everybody stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.